Hey, so in this series, we are going to see how to create an API using TypeScript and clean architecture. My name is Jarlin and I have been developing software professionally for a while. And one of the things that changed my career as a software developer and changed my perspective on how to build software was this knowledge of how to architect my application and how to design my code in a more professional way, allowing my applications to scale. Normally, when we start to develop software, especially when we use some kind of framework, we tend to always use that well-known MVC pattern. And then we divided our application between models, views, and controllers, which is not that bad if you're building something simple, such as an MVC, for example. However, as we need to scale this application and add more features, replace a library or something like that, we face several issues because as our code tends to get more coupled, it becomes more and more difficult to make changes in our application without having to also change it a lot of different places in our code. With that, our software becomes more susceptible to bugs and demotivates all the developers who need to maintain that code. And this is extremely common, mainly if you're just starting, if you came from a bootcamp background, we're not usually taught how to architect our application. We generally let some framework make the decision for us, and we end up putting all the business logic inside the controller, for example. I remember doing this a lot when I was starting my career, and I remember being rejected in many interviews, mostly for those companies that were looking for someone more senior or mid-level. So with that said, my main goal in this video series is to show you a real example of how to develop a large-scale API. We're going to see how to organize our business logic so we're no longer squeeze everything inside the controller, and we will see how to separate our application into layers. And we are going to see how to test each of those layers. And this is very important, we're going to see how to develop a software that is independent of frameworks, UIs, database, and so on. So this is the stack we're going to use. We're going to build an API on top of Node.js using TypeScript and MongoDB. And we're going to use Express as our main framework to build a REST API. However, as I said before, our software will be independent of frameworks. So in the future, if you want to replace the Express to Core.js or Fastify, it doesn't matter. You can do that easily. And we are going to see how to do that. We're going to see also how to replace a REST API to use GraphQL, for example. And that's the benefit to use, one of the benefits to use clean architecture. Okay, so these are some of the topics we are going to cover. So besides clean architecture, solid principles, design patterns, we also going to see some domain-driven design patterns. Even though this is not the main topic of this course, we're going to see how to work with domain-driven designer in a clean architecture. Okay, so we're going to see how both can coexist in our application. We're going to see object-oriented programming, of course, with TypeScript. We're going to see how to use Git using conventional commits and why this is important. We're going to see how to make JSON Web Token authentication, roles and permissions. We're going to make some integrations with Google APIs, AWS, and email services. And we're going to see some more advanced MongoDB features like indexes, schemas, transactions, and migrations. We're going to build a local environment using Docker and Docker Compose, and we're going to make tests for everything, for each layer of this application. And we're going to use a CI workflow on GitHub Actions to run this test every time that we release something. And we're going to use Swagger to build documentation for our API. And at the end of the series, we're going to deploy this API on some cloud service. And the only requirement necessary for this course is to have at least the basic of JavaScript and the most important features of the ECMAScript 6. and because this is a more advanced course, okay? So it's important to have at least the basic knowledge of JavaScript, okay? And ES6, of course. You don't need to know TypeScript, okay? You can learn, if you don't know TypeScript, it's not a problem. You can learn along the way as you go along. However, it's important to have at least the basic knowledge of JavaScript. And we're gonna build an API to find catalogs or flyers and products from the supermarkets or the retailers of your city, okay? We'll use these two websites as a reference, Tyndale and Shopfully. And if you go, for example, to the first one, Tyndale, you can see that I have a city here. So the website is based on the city, and I can change it, for example, to Milan. I'm in Italy right now, that's why everything here is in Italian. And you can see that I have some categories at the top of the website. I have my city, and I can search for products or for the supermarkets inside the website, okay? And here you can see that I have the latest catalogs from my city. I also have a list of the supermarkets or the retailers, if you prefer. And if I click in one of these catalogs, you can see that I have some pages, okay? And we're gonna see how to store these pages, and we're gonna use the Google Vision API to convert these images or these pages to a text. So then you can search for products inside the catalogs, okay? And if you go to the second one, you can see that it's the same idea. We have a list of the categories here. This one is from Australia, so it's in English. And then I have a list of catalogs as well. And if I click in the catalog, you can see that I also have these pages, and I can search for offers or for products or whatever, okay? So we're gonna build this API. If that sounds interesting for you, remember to subscribe to this channel, and I see you in the next one.